and we are live on the PHU Dynasty podcast. It is episode 75, and we are apologetic that we didn't get to one last week, but Sean was seeing Hans Zimmer last week, which is pretty cool. So how was the show, Sean?
He's a goddamn genius. It was great.
I want to
It
get
was so
comes out here. He looks. I've only heard amazing things about his live show.
good. He like breaks it down. He like features like specific like artists and stuff that are part of his band. It was really cool.
Did he play Interstellar stuff?
He played Interstellar,
Oh,
Dune 2. They
Dark
cap
Knight, anything?
The Dark Knight.
Oh,
They cap with the Lion King, which is, I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's a perfect finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that sounds fun. Yeah, the tickets are expensive, but I feel like it'd be worth it. So I'll have to look into
it
it.
really was.
But anyway, we're gonna do 2 weeks of reviews here. We're gonna start off talking about some not so fun stuff though with injuries though, because Sean, it's been rough. This has been a rough injury first couple
So
weeks.
many.
There's so many to very high profile players, and I've never heard more MCL injuries ever through 2 weeks. Like I've always heard ACL this, hamstring that, high ankle sprain, but there's so many MCL injuries. I don't know what the deal is this year, but we can start kind of getting into week 1 injuries here. Start off with the one of the opening games, the Jordan Love injury. He sprained his MCL. They called it a knee injury essentially, but it appears that he might actually be back though.
He practiced today.
Which is pretty wild because at first it looked like it popped. Like if you just kind of watch that clip in slow-mo, it didn't look good. So I'm impressed that I kind of thought it was gonna be an IR stint type of thing. And it did not be. So it didn't end up being that way. Now for Justin's team, I think with Tua being down as well, this is obviously something he's very excited about, I'm sure, trying to get some backup quarterback there too for Joe Burrow. When he's not playing Burrow, he can go back to Jordan Love. But the 2 injuries, we can kind of go there now. Dude, what a crazy injury. I mean, that was sad. It was a sad one.
It's it's in the manner that it happened too, because like it's not like he got like blasted by anyone.
No.
He ran into Damar Hamlin and he like knocked him.
Damar Hamlin's chest of all things, dude. Like it was really one of the craziest. I remember like just while I was watching it and I said, was that Damar Hamlin? Like there's no way. And there was. It was. It's just like, wow.
Sick irony out there.
There's some insanity, irony level stuff's going on there. But I mean, we could talk about it, from a Bombers perspective here and keep it, PDA, or I'm sorry, PHU Dynasty podcast related here. But, how does this affect, Tyreek Hill now, Jalen Waddle now?
It's not good.
It doesn't feel like it's going to be a good thing. And for Justin's team specifically, I mean, with Love already being out, having 2 quarterbacks out of his big trio down, not a good thing.
So the last time this happened 2 years ago, Hill managed to stay like his head above water because he had like a 30% target share. So that might be like the only way that he stays above water for now. I think the main guy that's going to be able to survive through this is probably going to be Achane.
Yeah, it sounds like they're gonna just feed him the rock. Like they even said, I think it was yesterday, that they're like, we want to give him more. I was like, okay, sign me up. It's like, as much as I don't think he can handle it physically, I'm okay with riding it. Just ride it till it dies, see what happens, and maybe who knows, maybe he can actually make it through a season. But
yeah, I mean the run game at this point doesn't seem very like tenable either. I mean, it's like there's not really been much success on the ground, like outside of Achane. So. And that's him just breaking like a few big plays. It's not like it's like a consistent like.
I've seen a lot of 1 yard in a cloud of dust, but I've also seen, Mostert has not been healthy, obviously, so that's helped him. And I think even when he comes back, I don't feel like he's going to be thrusted into a major role. I still think it's going to be Achane's backfield for the most part there. And the fact that they're using him so heavily as a receiver is actually the most exciting thing for my team, at least, because he's getting 7 targets a week and doing a ton of great stuff with that. So yeah, if anybody stands to benefit, I guess, out of the Tua situations, probably Achane. But for Hill owners, for Waddle owners, I think at least for the next few weeks until we get more information, it's probably going to be you got to expect a little bit of a downturn in overall production.
Do you think it's gonna be Skylar, or do you think they just roll with, like, Tyler Huntley?
I saw Huntley was in the mix now. I mean, I feel like they would probably go with Skyler for like one more week, see how it goes, and give Huntley more time to kind of get acclimated to the playbook, perhaps, which feels like the most logical thing to do because Skylar Thompson has been with Mike McDaniel for 2 years now, I think. So I feel like he deserves at least a chance and see where it goes. But I mean, if I'm a fantasy owner of any of those guys, I feel like I kind of want Huntley to play though. So I feel like there's just more overall upside there.
Yeah.
So anywho, we can get into well, shit. This is another armadillo here. Christian McCaffrey, on injured reserve. He really dumped me week 1. That was not cool. Just not playing 10 minutes before the game.
It's brutal.
Didn't use the auto sub feature because I didn't have anybody to sub at that point on Monday night, so it didn't even matter. Yeah, so that sucks. And just from I'd mentioned it to James in the chat that I knew the risk, drafting him, that this was always a chance that he couldn't stay healthy, and it would maybe be a tougher road to getting actual production out of him this year. But I'm just hoping at this point that the injured reserve gives him a chance to really heal up, and maybe by mid-season, towards the end of the season, he can actually be at full strength. I would rather have a full strength Christian McCaffrey than a banged up one anyway. So
Yeah,
I feel like
it definitely feels like it's like they did it to save him from himself kind of thing.
I
Just to, like,
agree.
he probably could have come back like week 3, but like why not just do it if you're a team that's you're not worried about October, you're worried about January.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to have to battle too hard to get into the playoffs. And I feel like Mason has been very solid as well. So I mean, obviously it's a different game when McCaffrey's on the field, but Mason's good enough to get them wins, especially against, crappier teams. So I do think your point, like McCaffrey has always practiced insanely hard and trained extremely hard. And he's probably the guy that they actually have to tell him, it's like, okay, dude, we're just going to do this and you're going to have to be okay with it. And this is for your own good kind of a thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of progress he makes. And it, if I have a healthy Achane who's, putting up 20 points a week, it seems like right now, and then to add a McCaffrey towards the end of the year, maybe that would be quite a boost for the Armadillo. So it stinks right now, but I'm trying to keep a positive outlook on it. And then sticking with the Bombers, I guess we got Kenny Walker here, but an oblique injury. He seems to be doubtful, or he was doubtful last week. I think he's questionable right now. Not ideal for the Bombers squad. Obviously, he looked pretty damn good that first week too. Charbonnet took the majority of the carries last week. Didn't really have a whole lot of success overall, but Kenny Walker was a guy I was very high on this year. I was targeting him in our redraft. Just didn't happen to make it to my spot, but I would like to see. I'd like to see Charbonnet actually do something. Like I feel like we've been kind of talking about him for 2 years as this like elite handcuff, and he's never really just blown me away yet. Like it kind of just feels like meh. I don't know.
He's almost like a little too, like maybe like a little too big. Like
For his play style, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, man, I would agree. It's kind of the same thing. I think it's more like a precautionary thing where they're keeping Walker out maybe a little longer than he might usually. But I mean, with any kind of like oblique or groin or anything like that, they're so sensitive to re-injury that it's not surprising.
No, I mean, and the way he runs too, he's a very punishing type runner, and those are the injuries that you kind of have to, like you said, save those guys from themselves. Even to another extent, we can get to our next guy, Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously runs like a savage, and he I think has, I want to say it was a knee injury or is it an ankle injury? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Fibula.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. That's going to be a pretty big loss for Vince. We kind of talked earlier in the offseason about how I thought this was one of the deepest running back rooms. Losing Pacheco it sucks, but he does have a decent amount of depth still left on that team, and this is why we have it, right? Because I think this is one of the major pieces of our entire dynasty league is you got to be deep because every year there's always a ton of injuries, and we have so many flex spots that if you're out there trotting out, I'll even use my team as an example. If you're trotting out Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't feel good about it. It's like you want to have good quality flex playable options, and losing a guy like this makes it a little bit harder. So, and I think we can maybe go into a Muskrat hour here, and we can talk about these next two guys who are back to back on the list: T. Higgins and Puka Nacua. Both very important pieces to the Muskrat puzzle. Puka seems like he will be out for quite a while. It seems like 5 to 7 weeks with a PCL injury. And then T. Higgins did not play week 1, did not play week 2 with a hamstring injury. So who knows when he comes back? Hamstring is always a lingering one too. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the panic level for the Muskrats right now?
I mean, I can't see it lower than a 9. I mean, these are probably two of this team isn't built on its running backs. Like, he needs his receivers in there, and he needs Mahomes, and he's got a tight end on his team that he paid up a lot for that has not done anything yet. So
he
needs these guys really badly, especially Puka. But they've got an early bye. They've got week 6, so hopefully by week 7 they're kind of back on track. So if they can muster up like a win or two before their bye, like kind of eases that pain a little bit, and hopefully they get everybody back on board. But it's tough. That was kind of the rub on him coming out of college was he can't really stay healthy, and T. Higgins is the same way. So it's unfortunate, but it's also not super surprising.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, I feel that quite a few players on this team, frankly, have some concerning injury history. And, for Alex's team, like week 1, his flex play was Chuba Hubbard. His flex play options are kind of like Rico Dowdle and, just players that are not inspiring to start as your flex options are now being thrusted into the mix, even going into week 2, where the Muskrats took another loss to the Long Gamers, yourself, actually. Starting guys like, Chuba Hubbard again for 7 points, Sam Laporta 1.3, Jacoby Myers 2.9. I mean, these are not good point totals, and this is not going to, like KJ Osborne was started for him last week. He had 0.7. You can't have that and win this league. So I think the Muskrats are in real trouble, and this is what we had kind of been saying all off season with the lack of depth on the team. There's not really anything at the receiver position outside of those kind of top 3 or so guys, and here we are, 2 of them are down. So we're in real trouble here. Keeping going down the list here, we lost Marquise Hollywood Brown to potentially the year for his injury. Pretty sizable loss there for the Bombers, I believe. I think he's still on Justin's team, so that kind of sucks. And I'm going to look down a little bit further on the list. So David Njoku had an ankle injury in the first opening game there. He actually looked pretty good when he got his. He always does look good when he catches the ball.
Does look good, yeah.
It's like just get him the ball. That would be fun. He's been replaced by Jordan Akins, who I actually thought looked decent too in relief, but he sucks. And then you got at tight end Jake Ferguson also has an MCL injury. He
looked so much worse than it actually
looked very, very bad when I was watching it live. I was like, oh, there he goes for the year. It's like I was ready to just chalk it up that he's gone. Yeah, he was kind of like game time decision last week. It sounds like he's going to play this week. So week 3, we might get a return of Turd Ferguson. So that was the week 2 injury report. I'm going to go to week 3 here and take a peek around because there's been quite a few recently as well. Let's see, Jordan. We got Pacheco. We already covered. Joe Mixon. He got hip dropped this past week.
He seems like
ankle injury.
he's gonna be all right though, from what I've read.
Yes, it says he had an MRI on Monday, and it seems like has a chance to play at least. So not terrible there. And
Mhm.
did he look good week 1? I mean, he was very impressive. I wasn't expecting much out of Mixon, and that was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, it made sense after watching the Colts defense in week 2 why he played so well in week 1. That defense is in trouble.
yeah, they're in not a very good position here. So then we got Cooper Kupp, another Rams receiver.
Just got rolled up on.
Yep, rolled up on extended period of time and is in a candidate for an injured reserve. I think he might have actually been placed on it already.
Yeah, again with the same thing as Puka, like that week 6 bye. I think they're just praying to try and get a win or two and then get the band back together.
Yeah, I mean, as a Jordan Whittington owner, I'm kind of looking forward to at least the next couple of weeks to see if there's anything there.
Yeah,
I mean, a couple of those.
I was so low on him because he just plays like Puka and Cup, and I was like, well, like he's not going to get on the field.
That was my thought too. But I
Yeah,
kept him on my because he was one of my lower end roster cuts, and I was thinking to myself, it's like, okay, what are the chances that Puka gets hurt? Pretty high. What are the
decent,
chances Cooper Kupp get hurt? Pretty high. So I
decent.
figured, but it kind of frustrated me because when Puka went down, Tyler Johnson went in, and Robinson stayed on the field as well. And I was like, whoa, 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 hold on! I said this is supposed to be Jordan Whittington's spot, but now they lost the other guy, so he has to play. So like they have a choice now. So at least we get to see what he got here. But Tyler Johnson actually looked halfway decent in his playing time. I was kind of happy for the kid. But anywho, all that to say, it's going to be very thin for the receiving game for the Rams over the next couple of weeks. So they're not in a good position.
That just makes life harder on your resident Kyron Williams owner in multiple leagues.
Yeah, a lot of stack boxes coming up. A lot
Yeah,
of stack
and
boxes.
half their offensive line is out too. It sucks.
They're just kind of in a shitty spot right now. I kind of almost feel bad for Matt Stafford that he has to work with this kind of ragtag group here.
Yeah, just don't get hurt, man.
Don't get hurt. That's their season if he gets hurt. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Then you got Justin Jefferson.
Jimmy G would come in, buddy.
What's that?
Is it Jimmy G would have to come in and relieve?
Yeah, seriously. Is he? Didn't he get suspended though? Or like
He's
for like
suspended
PEDs
for
or something?
games.
Oh, maybe he's already back. Who knows? I've kind of stopped following Jimmy G after a while, so there hasn't been much reason to keep up with him.
Alex, let us know in the comments. I'm sure he knows.
Yeah, he knows. So Justin Jefferson has a quad injury. It looked like just a bruise. He got kind of like wrapped up on a running play, so I think he'll be all right. But he's day to day.
Participated in walkthroughs today, so he should be good.
There you go. Amon-Ra St. Brown, what's up with him, Sean? I haven't
literally the same exact thing as Jefferson. Quad contusion.
Yeah, soft tissue injury and nothing to be concerned about. All right, that sounds good to me.
He practiced today as well.
And then another guy that I don't want to say he's on your team because he's not, but AJ Brown has been hurt as well.
Yeah, that was like a Thursday afternoon in practice. He like pulled up with a hamstring, and now he's, I guess, gonna be out for a couple weeks.
At least a couple weeks.
So
yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I mean, it's good for Devontae Smith value, but
yeah,
not great for the Eagles overall.
Weirdly, maybe good for Hurts because he's running the ball more. I don't know how to feel about that one, but
yeah, you would think Goddard would get a tick up too, but every time I say that, he just gets 4 catches for 45 yards, and it's like nothing.
Dude, it's brutal, man.
I feel bad for that guy. There's something. It's either he's just not that good, or he's
pretty good. He's usually.
I feel like he's good though. Like I don't.
Dude, watching the all 22 of Hurts just not throw to the middle of the field last year hurt my soul.
Oh, dude, last year's film was tough to watch for Hurts sometimes. Like as his Hurts owner, like watching him play is frustrating.
At least he's got hots now this year. Like he had 0 hots last year.
No, dude, it was just like look for the deep play or take a sack and run around. Like that was kind of it. Like it was frustrating as shit.
He still has the longest time to throw in the NFL this year too. And that offensive line is just doing miraculous things.
Yeah, and I'll say this again. Lane Johnson, he's in the top 10 best players in the NFL for me. He's so good.
He's
so
best
good.
right tackle in football.
I remember Scavelli and I saw him at the Senior Bowl like years and years ago, and I was like, dude, this guy's cool. He looked like a tight end at that time. He wasn't even big, and he was
Dude,
just so athletic.
they're so beefy because they moved Mekhi Becton into guard, and
Oh yeah,
he's actually looked pretty good at guard. I was like, okay.
I mean, he was, for him, it's all about just moving. Like if he doesn't have to move, he's fine. Like
Dude, him and Jurgens on double teams in their run game. You should watch the film from the
yeah,
first
I
game.
need to go back and check out some of that stuff.
It's hot. It's
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I love a good, you know how much I love a good guard block. So I like guards. And this goes back to James and I playing Madden 08 for years and years. I love what's called a phone booth guard, a guy that just can't move, but just all he does is just move a body from one direction to the other. I love that so much. So he's like a perfect example of that. Getting into some tight ends, Evan Ingram is week to week currently with a hamstring injury. It looked like Brenton Strange, pretty much took over that role last week. Actually played pretty well. I think he got like 7 catches or 60 something yards or something. He actually had a solid week.
3 for 65, but I think he had a drop or two in there too.
Oh, I didn't notice that part. So I guess maybe not as pretty as the stat line says, but
classic Jags.
Yeah, classic Jags player for sure. And
might
then
be the first coach fired.
It's not that, dude. Their offense looks bad. It's bad. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence went into a press conference that says the offense sucked, so that's not good.
Dude, and Peterson fucking hates him.
I don't know, man. There's something
you're not gonna win that fight with a guy making $250 million. So
yeah, especially that whole situation with the contract being a little bit premature, in my opinion. Like all that stuff is kind of.
Yeah,
it's Trent Baalke special kind of a thing going on.
He'll be the one to survive it all. He's a fucking cockroach.
Yeah, of course he is. He's a cat with 9 lives. That guy. All right, moving on. So that's pretty much the majority of the big injuries. Sean, can you think of any other ones maybe off the top of your head? If not, we'll just get right into
Debo.
Debo's a good one. What's going on with him? I honestly don't even know.
He's got a calf injury, so I think he'll miss probably like the next 2 weeks. Would be my guess.
Sounds good for my Ayuk shares.
Brandon Ayuk, big up. I mean,
Kittle.
Kittle up. Like even like the running game. Like I guess that's an up for.
Yeah, more Mason, I guess, potentially there.
But yeah, it just makes their offense a little less dynamic. So we'll see. I don't know.
I think. I mean, I don't know if you watched a ton of that game with the Vikings this past weekend, but dude, what a game plan from Brian Flores, dude. That I gotta tell you, the Vikings are impressive, and I've always loved Kevin O'Connell, but it just is even more impressive.
Every time I went and looked at the NFC North in the offseason, I was like, they just don't have the talent yet to compete. But I'm like,
and it doesn't matter.
I love KOC and I love Brian Flores. I think they're both
a perfect fit.
Top 10 in like their respective defensive categories. And I'm like, but there's not enough talent. Sam Darnold's gonna start. Like what? And they're just. And
then Darnold's a fucking MVP candidate right now. So it's like it's unbelievable what they've been able to do. And I thought that they were just gonna be a boring team to watch this year, and it's been anything but that. So I mean, and they've been doing this with Addison kind of banged up too, and Naylor's been looked great as well. And I've always been on the Naylor bandwagon, but he's just never had opportunities. But this is kind of perfect for him.
Aaron Jones has been one of the best running backs in the league.
Jones has been great, and then eventually they're going to get Hawkinson back. They're a pretty damn good team, man. They're going to be around. I'm excited to see what they do.
Considering how bad the NFC East is, like they could.
Oh, they're terrible.
Potentially, like it could be between them and the second team in the NFC South, maybe for a playoff spot.
I could absolutely see that. It's gonna be interesting. All right, so with that, we can start talking about our week 1 and week 2 matchups here. So we actually have some games, we have some actual records to talk about, we have situations to talk about with all these teams. So I'm gonna run down each matchup from week 1. We're gonna start with the Battle Axes versus the Armadillos. The Battle Axes with a runaway victory, 171-66 to 87 for the Armadillos. So almost 100-point difference. Obviously not the best week for me. I had a McCaffrey dud nothing burger in there as well. A couple of shit performances as well from Brandon Ayuk and Dalton Kincaid for 1.1 points. On top of a Dunze, 1.1 point in that game, got banged up, and Jake Ferguson left with an injury. So just not my week, basically, in week one. But for Scavelli, looking at just the team overall, all the guys that we said, oh, these guys need to work, they worked. So they worked really well. And frankly, you look at the trades that Scavelli made prior to the season, just before the season, the Mike Evans deal. Mike Evans goes off for 2 touchdowns, 61 yards. That worked out great. Tony Pollard, who I wasn't super feeling.
He's looking really good.
He's been excellent in that role with the Titans. And then, of course, Stephon Diggs, who I wasn't very high on either, has 2 touchdowns in week one, gets him 15.9 points. So, I mean, all the guys, and then kind of to wrap it up, Baker Mayfield, also involved in the trade with James, goes for 37.66. He was the number 1 quarterback that week. And then Saquon Barkley moving to a different destination here in Philly, he looked so good that first week. I mean, that was just a tremendous game from him. So, I mean, Scavelli, obviously still questions with maybe some overall depth, but I feel like the depth has kind of worked out a little bit too. Even Bucky Irving kind of moving up a little bit through the first couple weeks here. Just a great performance from Scavelli week one, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, the only player not really returning on that trade right now is Amari Cooper, which is concerning, but considering everything else he's gotten back, I mean, it's hard to really complain. Just really good stuff, man. I'm going to be probably eating crow on probably the Baker Mayfield quarterback ranking I had, so but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's been
so likable.
I mean, yeah, as a Bucks fan, man, like the team is just playing so well. They look well coached. I mean, even this past week against the Lions, a game where we had zillions of injuries, nobody really probably truly believed that they could win the game. They just played great football, like great team football, and it's just a fun team to watch. And Baker is just, like you said, so likable. He's just playing good football, and the team is fun to watch. Like, it's one of the more fun Bucks teams to watch that I can remember. So
when the Eagles get dumped by the Saints this week, we go into week 4 and we get absolutely dumped by the Bucks. Hopefully,
at home too. The Bucks are at home.
Hopefully, the team will then fire Sirianni.
I got to tell you, he's definitely on my list of. I would not be surprised if he got fired midseason coaches. That collapse this past week, Tom, was tough. That was tough to watch. I mean,
I
know how you feel, but I mean,
I knew as soon as he dropped that ball, I knew the game was over, and that's the worst feeling, is that I knew exactly what was about to happen, and it didn't happen.
It is wild. I mean, it's that, and then just the drive, just walking right down the field, prevent defense. Essentially, it was just it was ugly.
It was Olay prevent defense. It was
really bad. It was really bad. And
no pass rush, probably bottom 4 pass rush unit in the NFL, and we've got
crazy.
We've got money put in.
It's like there's talent. There's talent players there, and they're just not working. Like, I don't know, something's messed up. But I hate to say it, but it kind of gives me like Hackett vibes, where it's like, we know that there's stuff here and we know we can play well, but like, why aren't we doing it? And the game management has been terrible. I don't know. Yeah, they're one of those teams that they need to pull it together quick. Otherwise, it's going to go off the rails. So anywho, that's the week 1 matchup there for Scavelli, taking the victory, going to 1-0. And he was the number 1 team in the league after that. I believe he still is. He is, yes. So with point total. Going to the next matchup, Chili Cheese Fries versus the Muskrats. Cheese Fries take that one down 163 to 108. Cheese Fries pretty much just living up to expectations. What it felt like, at least to me, is we knew that this team had a ton of talent. We knew that this starting lineup was going to be really tough to match up against week to week, but a few excellent performances in here. I mean, it seemed like every player on this team had at least 10 points. I think there was only one player that was Mark Andrews, who had 1.4, and the rest of the players all had 10. Obviously, big performances from James Conner, 16.3. Jalen Waddle had a good first week, 5 for 5 for 109. A.J. Brown was excellent. And then Anthony Richardson, too, in that first week, completed 9 passes for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Total of 30 points for fantasy on 9 completions, Sean. It's crazy.
15 total opportunities to attain fantasy points, right? So 9 completions.
I didn't even think about that with the carries, yeah.
And he had 30 points. That's 2 points per attempt, I guess you could call that for a quarterback. That is stupid.
I mean, he is the definition of explosion. Like, that guy is.
That's insane, man.
That pass he threw to Pierce off his back foot was
best touchdown pass I think I've ever seen.
I don't think I've seen one like that ever. Like, I don't know anybody that can do that. Like, I've never seen that.
Stumbling to his left and just fucking
off balance, flick of the wrist too. Nonetheless, just a complete cannon.
Just absolute Uncle Rico over the mountain.
It truly was. It truly was. So I mean, like I said, a very I hate to call it expected, but I really did expect the Cheese Fries to throw good numbers up here earlier in the season. So for the Muskrats, 108, not a terrible performance, but not a good one either. Just if you just look at some of the guys that we're talking about, obviously Puka Nacua got hurt, 4.2 points. Calvin Ridley for 5. Jacoby Mowers for 6. Sam Laporta for 4. Just a lot of just kind of dud-ish performance on this team. His kind of upside guys, one of the guys that played out pretty well first week, Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown for 19.6. So that was nice. And then he followed it up.
I think it's been the bright spot of the team so far. Has got to be Stevenson. Like,
yeah,
that run game has looked a lot better than I think anybody would have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting a lot of carries. He had 25 in the first week, 21 in the second week. We'll get there, but he's looked very nice. And I guess we can use this time maybe to just talk about Laporta for a little bit, because I mean, this was a guy that when we talk about Alex's team, it's always about these top end guys and how he basically needs them to be top end guys for this team to really work. And Laporta, coming into the season was pretty much tight end 1 dynasty wise. Like, everybody was all in on Laporta. I mean, I was on him too, just like everybody, but I feel like the emergence of Jameson Williams, getting more play downfield and more targets seems to have perhaps siphoned some of those away from Laporta. And, I don't think it's in full panic mode, but where do you sit on Laporta right now, Sean?
If it was redraft, I would probably be trying to buy low. I think now, if they were like having no issues and blowing teams out, I think I would be a little more concerned. But considering it really hasn't been the greatest start to a season for Goff, I wonder if things kind of balance out here. And I mean, he's running routes on 80+% of dropbacks, so it's not like Laporta's not playing.
Yeah, I mean, his snap numbers are excellent.
So I would expect it to balance out a little more. I think maybe looking for him in the red zone a little more when they get there. I mean, they got into the red zone 5 times against Tampa, and they just didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 8 hits in 2 weeks. So I mean, it's just not what we saw last year. I mean, there was games where he had 11 targets, 11, 10, 9, 12. Like, so I mean, maybe they go back to their roots per se, and they, go back to Laporta more often, which, I mean, frankly, it's a good problem to have, all these great, receiving talents. I mean, they got really good players there. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to feed them all.
I would say, I think the biggest thing helping Laporta right now is that, like, all of the tight ends outside of like a couple of cases have really been pretty disappointing to start the year.
Pretty rough tight. I mean, everybody thought that this was going to be a deeper tight end year too, where, there's 8, there's 9, quality players. It has not been that way so far at all. So, yeah. I mean, it's still early, and, things will work itself out, but I'm not full blown panicking on Laporta, but I do think I'm a little concerned if I have him, and especially for Alex's team, where he needs these top guys, and even Mahomes to that extent,
if I didn't know what he traded for him, I would be less worried, but considering the price you paid, like, he needs to be a top 2 or 3 tight end, like, with Bullet.
There's really you can't. I don't think you can really argue with that either. All right, let's go to the next game. This is going to be your game against the Baton Rouge Bombers.
Oh no.
The Bombers took it down 157 to 111. Not a good week for the long gamers overall, but let's start with the Bombers here. Tua had a great week one. I guess he was. It's funny because he only had 21 points, but week one was so bad for quarterbacks this year. I mean, I can't remember so many quarterbacks like having like 100 yards passing. Yeah, like it's just like the passing numbers were so down as far as yardage goes.
So passing touchdowns this year after 2 weeks was at 69. Nice. The last year was like 80 something, and then every year before that it was over 100 for like the last like 5 or 6 years. So it's just like it's been just down. Dude, defense has just been way up to start this year.
Yeah, defense has been good, and I think this
field goals way up too.
Yes. I just feel like it's part of the preseason kind of just being a joke at this point. And the offenses are sluggish to start. There's more injuries. It kind of just sucks. But anywho, going to Kenneth Walker, that first week did have a great week. 20 carries, 103 yards, a touchdown. Excellent performance there. Travis Etienne, his new acquired running back, kind of didn't have a great game. 12 carries, 44 yards, a touchdown. He also should have been a lot better. Also lost a fumble in that game too, so that's not ideal. But I'll tell you what, Chris Godwin looks like he's going to have a great season this year for the Bombers. He seems to be a big centerpiece in that Liam Cohen offense. So, in the years past, it's kind of been a little bit hit or miss with his touchdown production. Week to week, you never really knew what he was going to get, but it seems like he's going to be very consistent this year.
He's already matched his touchdown total from last year, so
he's wide receiver 2 on the season right now, so pretty damn great start for Chris Godwin. Funny, I'm sure we'll talk way more about this player for week 2, but Marvin Harrison, week 1, not a good week 1 at all. Probably one of the worst I can think of. From a expectation standpoint heading into the season, he did basically nothing at 4 yards.
So this one, I literally just pushed it off to the side because he was bracketed and doubled the entire game by the Bills. As a rookie in your first game is insane, like, respect.
Yeah. Like, so, they shut him down. There's no doubt about it. I mean,
and there was sustained 25-mile-per-hour wind the entire game in Buffalo that game. So
he seemed like the easiest like bounce back candidate, if you will. I remember seeing like him go, his price in like DraftKings and stuff went down, and I was like, okay, that's a smash. Like, it just made too much sense for him to be, not involved in some capacity there. So in week 2, that being said, week 1, Jaden Reed though, wow, what a performance from him. Had that big long carry for 33 yards and a touchdown. Also had a couple bomb catches for 138 and a touchdown. So just a really impressive overall performance from Reed, and getting Love back next week potentially would be awesome for him. Going down to Kyle Pitts, just not a ton of usage overall again, which is just I don't even know with Kyle Pitts anymore, man. Who knows? But he at least caught a touchdown that week 1 opener for him. Joe Mixon, we talked about a little bit, just a phenomenal week 1, 30 carries, 159 yards, a touchdown. Definitely one of his top guys. And even Zeke looked kind of decent in that first week on his carries. So pretty damn good week for the Bombers week 1. Great to just, show up for a week 1 too, and get the season started off right for him. So going over to your squad, we're looking at, a couple of guys with some pretty big letdowns. Obviously, Raheem Mostert gets banged up, 1.9 performance. Not what you're looking for.
But not unexpected.
Not totally unexpected, because I'm just amazed that he made it through last year fully healthy. But anywho, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown with that kind of dud performance week 1, which really that's a real killer. I mean, when you got him and London both combining for about 3 points, you're probably not going to win that week, unfortunately. But there are some good performances to talk about, though. Lamar Jackson did have a good statistical week 1, not really so much for the team, but a 28-point performance from any quarterback in this so far this season is pretty impressive.
That's elite.
He's very elite. He's the number 5 quarterback right now with a kind of a dud last week. So And then going down the list, Alvin Kamara has been very good, very very good these
Your boy's
first
been
couple
getting
of weeks.
schemed up. It's been great.
It's really working out for the kid. Yeah, obviously we'll get more into him week 2, so I'll leave that for now. But what can you say about your week 1 performance here, Shawnee? I mean, is there anybody that you're particularly disappointed in, or?
Dude, week 1's just a weird week.
It
You
is.
just, I don't know. There's like funky stuff happens in week 1. You just kind of have to survive the ride. Hopefully, nobody gets too hurt. Go
Yeah, I
from
mean,
there.
and you just really don't know a lot of times like what these offenses are going to look like, because especially we don't have any preseason to go off of anymore, really. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's always tough. All right, let's go to the next one. We got Plague versus Lambs. We're not going to get too into the weeds on this because the Lambs, we know kind of what they are at this point. But, for the Plague, Josh Allen, great week 1, 35 points. Did pretty much what you expected him to do. Obviously, last week was kind of just a very strange week for the Bills overall, with that kind of dominating performance, even though he didn't really have to do anything. Going down the list, Justin Jefferson, it's impressive what Sam Darnold has done, and it's going to make starting Jefferson every week even easier than it already is, knowing that at least you have a competent quarterback for the time being. Exceeding expectations, at least for me. So, looking further down the list, quite a few duds here on the Plague side. They got a really good performance out of their Minnesota defense in week for
The
22
special
points.
teams just get absolutely carrying the day.
Yeah, I mean a 34-point performance from the special teams, so you got to love that. Kind of making up for a Keenan Allen dump at 2.9. Travis Kelce, a really slow start to the season, not ideal there, and then Michael Pittman also having a very slow start to the season.
Dude,
too.
red alert on that one.
He just doesn't seem like he fits well with Anthony Richardson.
No, I would be. Yeah, I don't think
I would be concerned. Well, I'll put it that way. I'll be very concerned about Michael Pittman so far. And then DK Metcalf also had a week 1 as well. He had finished very nicely last week, but
yeah, he got Surtain.
Yeah, he got Surtain. So I mean, not a lot to talk about really on Dan's team. He just kind of just got ran up to the right player here with the Lambs. The rebuilding Lambs starting Carson Steele for 0.3. Cade Otton, the tank commander, at 0.5. Demarcus Robinson for 4.2. I will say Brian Thomas has looked very nice in his kind of limited targets here. I think he had a touchdown in both weeks. No, just the one, and then he had a chance last week, I think, but came up just short. 2 for 94. So some pretty good upside there. And then Keon Coleman has looked pretty involved a little bit here too. So that's a nice little start here for the Lambs rebuild. And then Herbert, I will say Herbert is kind of doing exactly what I thought he was going to do in this offense. Just distributing the ball, not really making any crazy mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't really played from behind yet, so curious to see what happens when they have to. I don't remember who they're playing this week, but
they are playing Pittsburgh.
So not really going to be playing from very far behind. Like
that's gonna be a boring ass game.
That game's gonna be like 13-10,
13-9 win.
Guaranteed, like Pickens will make a play, and that'll be the difference in the game.
It'll be like 126-yard catch, and that'll be it. Yeah, it's so It seems so predictable, at least. All right, and then we'll get to the last game here in week 1, arguably the game of the week in terms of just like closeness. The Lauderdale Lionheads coming away with a week 1 win against the Kentucky Elk, 118-109. Not great performances really for either team, not like mind-blowing stuff here, but pretty expected. I would say for the Elk, getting Xavier Worthy off to a really hot start was probably pretty nice. A nice 18-point performance in week 1. Kind of followed it up with a bit of a dud last week, but a good performance. And then of course Malik Neighbors, he looks like the real deal. And he's getting hyper targeted, and he had 18 targets last week, Sean.
He had like 67% of the team's targets.
Yeah, here it is. Neighbors' target shares of 64% is absolutely insane. To have 2/3 of the team's total pass attempts go to one player just shows what kind of player he is. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So that's looking very nice for the Elk as they also continue to kind of build that squad. And then Devonta Smith for 8.4. And then now with the AJ Brown injury, he gets bumped up a little bit. So that's looking nice. So this receiver core is really coming together here, even with Chris Olave kind of just not really being a factor so far.
He's got the best Saints receiver just riding the bench both weeks.
That's true too. You got the Sheed monster. So I will say one player that's kind of been disappointing so far for the Elk is Tank Dell. Just kind of feels like he maybe is going to be less involved this year with Diggs being on the field more often. He only had 4 targets last week.
He's been on the field the same amount as both the other receivers.
Yeah, at least his snap percent. 69% snap percentage, nice. But 63 the week before. So it's not like he's not on the field. It's just there's maybe just too much to go around.
I heard somebody make the comparison to Tony Pollard last year because they both had that tightrope surgery for their broken leg, and how Pollard really took almost 2/3 of the year to get right. And I'm really curious to see if that is something that's going to happen with Tank Dell this year.
I mean, it makes sense because if you look at his performances last year and then kind of the way the season ended for him, I think he just needs time. I think he's going to be fine for fantasy. Like eventually he'll give you the wide receiver 3 numbers, but it's not like he's not getting targets. I mean, he had 7 the week 1 and then just 4 the last week, but I mean, he's going to be a little bit different of a player this year, at least to start the year.
Yeah. I think I would still rather have him than Diggs rest of season, but I don't know. We'll see.
Agree with that. We'll see. I mean, I think and if I'm not 100% sure that Diggs, he's getting older. You never know, he could get hurt and things could change. So anywho, we'll keep moving along here. See if there's any other notables here for the Elk. Just Zamir White is Zamir Whiting. Kind of exactly what everybody thought he was going to be. Tyjae Spears has not really been a factor. It's been the Pollard show. So those are kind of the only other ones. Let's go over to the Lionheads here. Nice to see Bijan just get a healthy stream of touches, getting his 20-something touches a game. That's kind of what everybody was hoping for last year. Seems like it's more of a steady thing this year, so that's good. He's going to go against Kansas City this week. Pacheco had a good week 1, but obviously he's going to be out for a while. Terry McLaurin. Let's talk about Terry McLaurin for a second. Boy,
I made my feelings known already in the group chat.
I wanted to. I know you brought it up, but he is in that Hopkins role that he was in, towards the end there with Cliff, and it's that left side of the field, short passes, screens, nothing going on. And it makes me so sad because Terry deserves so much more. Like he needs to not be in that role.
Trade him to the Chiefs.
Oh my God, what a phenomenal fit that would be. What a fit. But he just seems like a player that screams he should be traded. I mean, he's 29. Everybody knows he's good. He's a team guy. I mean, obviously it's tough to trade a guy like that when you have a rookie quarterback, but man, this is kind of like his peak value. Who knows if that ends up happening, but I just don't feel good about Scary Terry now. And I loved him before the season. I just don't feel good.
I don't remember the exact number or anything, so you can look it up, but the ADOT of Washington's receivers compared to the rest of the NFL, just look it up when you have a chance. It is.
I mean, just seeing this, his yards per target is 2.75 last week on 8 targets. So it's not good. It's not good at all, Sean. So I think he's a bench guy. You can't play him right now until you see something.
Yeah. I think I saw that 30% of their wide receiver targets have been behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that is rough. That's really bad.
It's not offense.
It's just like, I understand trying to get the ball out of Daniel's hands quick and give it to your playmakers and stuff, but dude, it's not working. It's just not gonna work. It's not like Terry is this uber athletic guy. It's just not his game. He's a route runner. He can separate. Just get him different chances. Like give him a Rashee Rice role at the very least. Give him those, mesh routes and drags and stuff. Like get him some space and let him work. But
I, I, I can't, after barely beating the Giants without a kicker, I just don't see, like, that team might win 2 or 3 games all year.
they don't look good. I mean, and it's funny because Daniels has been putting up some fancy numbers, but it does not translate to on the field. It's been mostly rushing, so I just don't feel good about the Commanders really at all. I mean, I can't think of one player that I would love to have right now. Maybe Daniels just for the rushing, but
it just oozes that year that Lovie Smith was in Houston. Like the whole thing is
just
like
a transition
gone.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would not surprise me at all, Sean. Let's go down the list. So David Montgomery also having a very nice start to the season, despite not getting many touches overall, or snaps, I should say. Yep, he just rock solid. You know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Jonathan Taylor has started off the season very strong as well for the Lionheads, which is exactly what he needed. I will say another disappointment here is Christian Kirk. First 2 weeks of the season, he has done literally no. He actually had -0.1 last week, so not good. He's another guy. I don't know how you can start him with any sort of confidence right now until they can figure something out there. So yeah, just not a great week 1 here for the Lionheads, but it's not a bad one at all. Like 120 is usually a pretty good number in this league, and you can win with that. But compared to some other teams, not the best overall performance for either one of these teams. So let's go into week 2, keep it rolling. We'll keep it with the Lionheads. Yeah, I was gonna say I enjoyed this week significantly more. Lionheads versus Lambs in the Tank Bowl here. Lionheads have a much better performance in this past week, putting up 139. Lambs putting up 84. Kyler Murray had an excellent week 2, as we mentioned a little bit when we're talking about Marvin Harrison. 34 points for Murray. He looked really good, really in control against the Rams defense is okay, but just a great game. He only had 4 incompletions. Really stretched the field nicely. I just think I always thought Murray was going to be in that kind of top 5-ish quarterbacks for this year anyway, and that really felt good to see that from him. Moving down the list, another quality performance from Montgomery, 13. Taylor with 14, another good performance there. Did get a better week out of Zay Flowers in week 2 with 15 points. He's been getting very loaded up with targets these first 2 weeks. He had 10 week 1 and 11 in week 2. So it seems like he is going to be a huge piece of this offense, way more than last year.
His route tree in week 2 was much further down the field than it was in week 1, too. I think as they get more confident with this new offensive line, I think that's going to be more of a thing for him and Mark Andrews. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, they just need a little bit of time to kind of figure out their little kinks that they got going on in this offense right now. So I'm looking forward to him. Obviously, McLaurin, not a good week. 8 targets for 22 yards. That's not good.
6 catches for 22 yards.
Yeah, not ideal at all.
Free Terry.
Yeah, free Terry. That would be a great T-shirt. Put in reverse, Terry. We got to do something different here. Trey McBride gets a good second week after a dud first week. He
jumps on top of a loose
jumps on a fumble, which is funny. I did watch that on Red Zone. I got a good chuck out of that, but he did have 6 catches for 67. So a good week overall. Obviously Pacheco goes down. Christian Kirk for -0.1 that week. Not good.
It's not great.
Not great. Bijan for 12, which is fine. And then Justin Tucker with his quality 13 there. So just a good overall week for the Lionheads. Got great, no real huge giant performances, but just solid across the board. And then the Lambs, with their 84, kind of just doing Lamb things. CeeDee Lamb picked it up a little bit here with 15 points. And then Brian Thomas, 2 catches for 94 yards. He looks very explosive. I'm looking forward to him the rest of the season. I think he'll end up being a big piece of the James rebuild here. So Cade Otton for -0.4, Sean. 1 carry.
On a carry.
Sean. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I got to tell you, on 100% snap share, Sean. It's 2 targets. He's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be a thing. I think we can put that one to bed. Maybe, perhaps. I don't think he's going to be a piece of this offense, especially with Jalen
I could really try and talk shit, but I was defending Tyler Conklin, who has also not done very much.
He's done very, very little, Sean. It's been bad.
It's early though. Don't worry, it's early.
Hey, it is early, I guess. I will say, we've only really talked about starters here, but damn, Derek Carr has looked pretty damn good, and he was on his bench for both of these weeks. But he's I gotta tell you that Saints offense is really surprising me so far. So
he is not being Derek Carr under pressure. He's like actually throwing the ball under pressure.
He's not really under pressure. Like which is surprising. Yeah, like a lot of these big plays have happened off of play action where he has time to step up and everything. So I mean,
he's only dropped back on 7 third downs so far in the year.
That's incredible. He had 16 pass. He only had 11 completions last week, and he had 243 yards. Like, great week. Interesting. Anyway, all right, let's go to the next game. We got Battle Axes versus Plague. This was a Donnybrook. Battle Axes barely squeak out the win, 131-128 against the Plague. 3-point win. One of the better games that we've had so far this season. Another Baker Mayfield start, another 20 points there. Very nice for Scavelli. Also picked up 13 and 15 from his two stronghold running backs, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Very good. Receivers did literally nothing for him this week. Mike Evans for 4, Stephon Diggs for 3, Amari Cooper for 1. Not good at all, but got really picked up by George Kittle for 13. Brian Robinson, part of that trade that we mentioned earlier, excellent week, 17 carries, 133 for 14 points. That's as good as you can ask for from Brian Robinson, and then gets the Brandon Aubrey special, 17 points after a 21-point week 1. Brandon Aubrey is a stud.
I think he might be the biggest positional advantage in football.
Dude, in fantasy, like,
have you seen their kickoffs?
I really haven't watched too much of that, I'll be honest with you.
So if you land in the whatever it is, like the 0 to 20 range,
the landing zone or whatever they're called,
landing zone, and then you bounce it for a touchback, the other team starts at the 20.
Huh. I really didn't even know that.
He's done it almost every single time.
Wow. He's just he's a weapon.
They're getting an extra 10 yards on defense every time against everybody.
That's a good stat, Sean. I didn't even know that. I didn't realize that he was doing it that often. What's crazy is, I mean, dude, this guy, 21 points week 1 to 17 week 2. I mean, he's putting up quarterback level numbers at the damn kicker.
Do you think we're going to have to add a 6-point for 60-yard field goals in the next couple of years?
I mean, I feel like we should. I mean, to me, I've always thought, I feel like the field goals should be based on yardage probably, and just whatever the yardage is, you get that many points. If you make a 63-yarder, give them 6.3. Like, I feel like
that's an option on Sleeper.
It should be. I think we implemented it in another league, but I don't think we have ever done it in this league. I could be completely wrong, and maybe James or somebody else can check me on that. But I feel like that should be a thing at some point. But yeah, anywho, just in terms of this game, 131 obviously got some huge performances. Scavelli's, defense special teams really with a kicker showing up. So without that, he's not winning this game. Going over to the Plague, we got Josh Allen, kind of that dud, as we mentioned, through a weird dud in a win, a 31-point win.
All those points went somewhere else.
Yeah, seriously. So I've always amazed when that happens, when it's like a 10-point performance and they just smoke the other team. It always confuses me. But Devin Singletary looked really nice against Washington that week 2 for 13.5. He seems pretty impressive, and I just like Devin Singletary, man. Like, he's just one of my guys. I just like him. Nothing special, but he's a quality player.
A valued member of the long gamers for many years.
Yeah, he's just like he's a guy that you're just happy to have on your team. He's nothing flashy, but just really solid. Dan got tremendous wide receiver play this week.
Kept him in the
20
game.
points. Yeah, seriously, 20 points from Jefferson, 19 from Metcalf, 18 from Devontae Adams, and the old 0.6 from Travis Kelce. So, really, really great performance. It's actually really nice to see Devontae Adams have a huge week with Gardner Minshew. I feel like the Raiders in general, with kind of Bowers, moving up in the ranks here too, having an excellent week one. They don't seem as bad as maybe I originally thought they were going to be. Especially what a week 2 win against the Baltimore Ravens too. I mean, just very, very strange. I just was not expecting any of that. So,
the Ravens' schedule the next like 3 or 4 weeks is really difficult too.
Wow, and I haven't even checked it to be honest with you, but it's kind of concerning because they do not have anything really figured out right now. So
I think they have like Buffalo and like Houston coming up after week 3 or something like that. It's not easy.
That is not good. Now, Sean, let's talk about this next guy because I was not a believer, and it's J.K. Dobbins. He's been
You're talking to
crazy
believer
good.
number 1. I took him in redraft, so
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I didn't believe in it, and I was wrong. He has had 130 yards in both games, a touchdown in both games, 20 points in both games. It looks like he's legit right now, so no reason to believe otherwise until he shows me that he can't do it anymore. So
we should treat this one as like a no-hitter. Like you don't talk about it.
Yeah, you just ride the wave.
If you talk about it, the Achilles is going to do something funny.
Yeah,
like,
I really hope not, Sean.
We should just move on.
And what's crazy, Sean? He's only 25. He's only 25. Yeah. I feel like he's been in the league for like 10 years. It's unbelievable.
Like it.
I mean, you can't speak enough about how important that is, though, for the Plague. I mean, this team desperately needed an answer at running back, and with Ford being functioning, with Singletary being functioning, and then getting an actual real running back here, apparently with Dobbins. I mean, this has really turned very nicely for him.
Is that the first time somebody has said something like that about a Ford functioning? Car jokes. Okay.
I mean, hey, you know what they say about Ford, right? Fix or repair daily. So, or found on the road dead, one or the other. So let's see what else we got here. Those are kind of the main ones here. So let's go to the next game. Okay. Let's see. We got Muskrats. No, hold on. This is wrong. This is week 3. Week 2.
Alex?
Muskrat. Yeah, let's go to that one. Muskrats long gamers here. So obviously you have a bounce back performance week 2, getting 172 points to the Muskrats 102. Huge win. Gets you to 1-1. Nobody wants to start 0-2. It just doesn't feel good. Same thing with my squad that we'll get to in a minute, but just feels good to be 1-1 at least after kind of a week 1 flop for both of us. James Cook, dude, he looked pretty freaking good against the Dolphins there in week 2. And he also had a solid week 1. So he's RB5 on the season so far. Ray Davis is sprinkling in there, but it doesn't seem like it's a huge deal right now.
I think maybe something that obviously was like reported, but maybe like a little underreported was that like Josh Allen handed off on the goal line.
Yeah.
And that was maybe because his left wrist is taped up.
It was very messed up, apparently, according to like the pregame. They showed his wrist was all jacked up. So,
I mean, if that's a trend, then I mean, like Cook top 5 RB this year.
It's in the realm of possibility. We'll put it that way. So, yeah, I feel like at the very least, if that's the case, top 10. So, I feel good about Cook, and then we'll go down to Kyren Williams here. Really not efficient whatsoever so far.
Surviving, man.
But there's not a lot to work with on that line. It's going to be
his
tough
yards
sledding.
Before contact is under 1 for the year.
It's not good. It's not good at all, Sean. Yeah. He's got 30 carries for 75 yards so far. So not a good start to the season. But that being said, the touchdowns have bailed him out. And he should still at least give you some value in the meantime while they try to figure out all these injuries. But Tyreek Hill, not a good week 2. The whole team just fell flat that whole week. So I think we'll know a little bit more about Tyreek and all that this week.
I never expect a big week against Buffalo with Tyreek. They seem to do a pretty solid job.
They seem to shut him down, man. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Maybe other teams should like kind of like look at what they're doing because I feel like they're the only team that
I
knows
mean,
what they're doing.
if you've got a good quality defensive coach or D coordinator, like the Dolphins really haven't been able to do much against those teams. And like they were terrible against playoff teams last year, and they're not going to be much better this year. So
Yeah, it seems like it's not going to be much of a change with, especially with Tua being down for a while.
yeah,
I don't feel great about it for unfortunately for Dolphins fans here, Vince. But maybe they'll turn it around. Who knows? And let's see, we got Monter St. Brown here, 12.9, so a nice bounce back there after a pretty duddy week one. 19 targets in that game. That's the Monter St. Brown we know. So,
I'd like to see that.
and then Drake London, 6 catches, 54 yards, a touchdown.
Take the touchdown away, please, God.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sold on the Falcons quite yet. I don't feel good.
I mean, Kirk is so obviously immobile. Like I think
He
it's
can't
gonna get
move.
better as the year goes, which is
You would
encouraging.
hope. You would hope.
Like he was putting everything he had into some of those downfield throws, and like he can't really throw outside the numbers right now.
No,
So
and he
I
can't
think he's
push
still
off.
going, but I like the trajectory like towards the end of the year for London, assuming health and everything for
Yeah,
everybody.
I think they'll improve. And this is, you got to remember too, this is like a first time offense. Like none of these guys have worked together. It's going to take a little time to get this off the ground.
There's a 40 burger for Bijan lingering. It feels like he's been
Yeah,
so
I'm
good.
expecting a monster game out of him at some point. He just got to go against a crappy defense
He
or
did.
something
He just
like
didn't
that.
get a touchdown last
Well,
week.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking like I'm ready for a, um, I'm
Carolina.
ready for, yeah, like a Carolina 35-point performance or
Yeah,
something like that.
it's
Like
gonna
that's
happen. I
it's
realize.
happening
Oh yeah.
at some point. Let's go down your list here a little bit. We got Jordan Mason, obviously filling in for the injured Christian McCaffrey, looking very good. 22 points week 1, 17 week 2. Number 6 running back on the year. Just an excellent, backup handcuff to have. It's working out great right now for the long gamers. I wish I had him. I do not. It's very sad.
You tried. I said no.
I did try. I can say I tried, but I was also not willing to give
I
too much.
he's played well enough to me, like where he's not gonna not have some involvement when McCaffrey comes back. Is
Yeah,
that fair to say?
and you know for a fact too that whenever McCaffrey comes back, it's going to be a situation where he's going to get eased in a little bit. So that first week, it's not he's not going to get the full workload. It'll be kind of a work his way into it kind of thing. And then, like you said, I don't think he's going away because I do think that Mason is a very good in between the tackles runner. And he's also a big boy at 225 pounds, so he
He's
kind of
like a
gives them a different element.
he's like a beefier Pacheco, like the way he runs and
He
like
has some similarities, man. Like I remember watching him when he came out of Georgia Tech, and I thought he would be a good first and second down pounder, and that's literally exactly what he is. I mean, he's not a pass catcher, and that's fine. But he'll work his way into the offense somehow, I think. So moving down, okay, so obviously this is the 43 burger here from Kamara. That's going to be good for the end season point totals to get that one on the board. Just a tremendous performance. 20 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had 2 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown. Just you really can't do any better. I mean, this is pretty much it. So,
I mean, did any like I know we've already talked about the Saints offense, but like there's no way anybody saw like this. Like I thought they would be better just based off of like they've had the same Pete Carmichael was there since Sean Payton was there. Like he was the OC when Sean Payton was there. Like they haven't had a new idea in 2 decades. So like I
yeah,
knew the offense would be better or at least like different,
they had to be functioning at least.
but
Like
it obviously was not functioning because like
it wasn't then, but now it is. I mean,
yeah, and I think it just shows like how much like talent was actually on this roster because like it's crazy. Like even the offensive line, which everybody thought was going to be terrible, like has looked good.
yeah, the tackle plays, the way they've developed. I mean, I'm just watching a little bit of their stuff. The way that they've developed the offense to like, and this is classic, Gary Kubiak. It's the Kubiak tree of run, play, action. James and I joked about it for a long time with like the Panthers. It's run, play, action, and because of that, it's hard to get pressure on the quarterback because you have to be focusing on the run, especially when you got Kamara running for, 5.5 yards a carry. It's a real thing to lock up some of those guys. So it's going to make the jobs easier for this offensive line. And frankly, it's they got a tough one against Philly, I think, this week. This will be an interesting one to kind of see.
No, it's not.
Well, I think it's tough in the sense that, like, it's not Carolina, right? And then
I don't think they're much better
than Carolina's defense.
No.
Maybe
I think
maybe I'm not watching enough Philly football. We'll put it that way.
I think the secondary is actually pretty good, but you're asking a 33-year-old corner and a rookie corner to guard for way longer than they should be, and it's making everybody look bad.
I mean, I guess here's my real, because like I said, I have not really watched a lot of Philly football so far. How bad is this run defense?
It's terrible.
Is it bottom 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be an interesting one then for Kamara.
If you don't let Jalen Carter wreck the game in the first couple of defensive possessions, he will let you run all over him.
That's crazy.
If he's not into the game, he doesn't care about run defense. If he's into the game, like, they got a chance. Jordan Davis has been a complete bust. He's not been good. And the edges are light. Like, they're playing Bryce Huff on the edge, who's just not going to stop the run. It's bad, man. It's really bad. The linebackers are a bottom 5 unit in the NFL. And the safeties and the corners are fine. Like, I think they're actually good, and I think they could be very good. Like, I think they could be top, 8 to 10 in the league, but it's just so bad everywhere else.
It's tough to mask that when you're not stopping the run. It's just hard to do anything. Well, anywho, in this game, the 172 to 102 performance. I mean, we'll talk about Alex's team very briefly, but we are in big trouble, Sean, and we had kind of a meme plan. We'll have to run it maybe next week, but we have this.
I have a plan in place.
Does he have a concept of a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
You have concepts. I don't know if he has a concept of a plan right now. He's starting
2028.
Yeah, it's dude. Your starting receivers are Calvin Ridley, who actually had a very good week last week. Jacoby Myers for 29 yards and KJ Osborne for 7 yards. There are not any better options on this bench, Sean. There are not. I'm looking at the bench right now. We have Treylon Burks, Tyquan Thornton, Marvin Mims, and Jalen Hyatt. We don't have anything.
And you know what's not going to help? DeAndre Swift being terrible. Chuba Hubbard, basically on a clock until the rookie comes in.
And do you want him anyway? Just do you want any Panther at all anyway?
And Zach Moss, frankly, being inefficient and being the second best running back on that team until they figure out that Chase Brown should be getting more touches. So
Zach Moss is in full Mike Davis mode.
Yep.
That's he is the Mike Davis of this. Him and Zamir White are the Mike Davises of this year.
I think honestly, if one of the better things that could happen is if Swift gets hurt, because then he could just start Herbert, and I think that would be better.
And he's better. I mean, well, here's the thing. I will say this: in watching that game last week was miserable for the Bears. Their offensive line sucks. They're not good.
Dude, it starts with the OC, man.
I mean, of course, yeah. Everybody hates Waldron.
Waldron is terrible.
He's trash. But boy, dude, that line couldn't block for 3 seconds. I heard that Williams was pressured on 27 of 28 dropbacks. That is embarrassing. So I imagine that's carrying over into the running game. I don't.
Embarrassing.
It is
nice. Pun.
Not even an intended pun. But yeah, dude, they're an absolute mess right now on the line.
Dude, you know who's looked good on the All-22 outside of the pressure getting to Caleb? Rome is open all day, every day.
He's not getting the ball. I'll tell you that.
He can't get it to him.
I mean, I would love it if he could get the ball, but he's not getting the ball.
I will tell you right now, he's been open a lot, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, if they can just give him any time to throw it to him, that'd be helpful. So,
yeah.
Anywho, let's see. We had another tight game with the Cheese Fries against the Baton Rouge Bombers. Had a little bit of a snafu with the IR in this game, but he still managed to pull off the win, 2-point win here against the Bombers. Richardson coming back down to earth a little bit this past week. He's just very inaccurate, man. Like, it was just glaringly bad.
It's gonna be the roller coaster ride all year. Like, do you ride it the whole time? Do you go with Dak, who's probably got a better baseline, but you don't get like the explosion games? Like,
I mean, Dak has been kind of weak to start as well. I mean, like, even Dak, I kind of expect a little bit more out of him, but
I think he's played against 2 good defenses so far. So
that's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, I think once he gets to the Giants week 4, you probably know a little bit more there, probably. But not bad at all though. But yeah, I think you're gonna have to figure out week to week if you really want to start Richardson in some of these tougher matchups, and especially against good defenses, he's gonna struggle. Breece Hall, 17.4 per. Just doing Breece Hall things. I think at this point we know he's very good.
Should be better, but
better.
Another offensive coordinator problem.
Very much so. Jahmyr Gibbs, 10-point performance. He's been pretty solid. Not getting the huge numbers, maybe that people expected, but he's doing fine so far. So nothing to complain about there. Garrett Wilson, he looks good, and it's just
my previous comment about the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's not explosive. It's kind of just boring, and but he is managing to get his target share and is getting 6 points a game so far. So that's not like the end of the world, but he should get better as time goes on. Isaiah Likely got the start in this one. Did not follow up the initial 18-point performance with anything impressive. He only had 2.6 in week 2. Should be interesting to see what he ends up doing at the tight end position. If he's going to go back to Andrews, I'd imagine he would this next week.
I think he's just got to be the start the entire year unless he gets hurt. I think the Chiefs just own Andrews. They take him out of the game by design every time they play. So I think Andrews is just the easy start the rest of the year.
Yeah, and it's just less headache really overall. Josh Jacobs, 14.1 last week. He had 32 carries for 151 yards last week. So
that's a lot of carries.
Carries, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about preseason, Sean, with, has Matt LaFleur ever really had a guy that can do that? And the answer is no to me. And this is the guy.
Nobody else is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't stay healthy, there's nobody that can do this. So
I really doubt that if AJ Dillon was on the active roster right now, that would be the case, but it is what it is. So
yeah, hey, ride it out. He had 67% of the snaps, 32 carries, 0 catches, 0 targets. So he's just a running back that runs the ball, and it seems to be working. So good for the cheese fries. Rachaad White has not been super impressive so far to start the year. He had a pretty good week 1 in the receiving game, but other than that, not a whole lot going on there. And then he got hurt with a groin injury at the end of this last game. So, and then James Conner, man, James Conner, what a guy. The guy, he's just rock solid player, man. Just a rock solid player. He's had 2 very good weeks to open the year, 16 and 19. So just keep firing him up, and nothing to think about.
I don't have him anywhere, but I hope he plays the entire year.
I love him.
That's my wish and dream for James Conner.
I've always loved him, but he's just rock solid. And then I will say Tibbs has had a good special teams run here with Kaimi Fairbairn, only behind Brandon Aubrey so far this year. So good kicker to have, it seems like.
You can only take him if you can pronounce his entire first name.
I do not want to do that, so I will pass. And we will go over to the Bombers and see what their guy got going on. So they had Charbonnet. Like I said, not very efficient game earlier, but he did put up the points. He's had 10 and 12 in both games, so not a terrible start at all. For him, Travis Etienne, I think he's probably expecting more from Etienne, but this is kind of the same problem as we saw last year, a little bit inefficient. You just getting touchdowns. That's really the name of the game for Travis Etienne. So not a great start, but solid. Godwin, excellent performance. Again, week 2, did almost all of his damage in the first half too, which is pretty wild. Mm-hmm. And then Marvin Harrison, 26 points in week 2, 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns off the top rope. just a brilliant performance, and he should just continue to develop and get better. I mean, that week one was always just a
His
stud.
his non-touchdown catches were the most impressive catches. If you're, I don't
Yeah,
know if you saw them, but
I
dude,
did. And he looked very, very impressive. Like
very
he
good.
just looked like the wide receiver one, dude. He looked like the guy. So it was cool to see. Jaden Reed kind of came back down to earth a little bit with Malik
Not
or I'm sorry.
unsurprising.
Yeah, it's not totally not. He did not practice, by the way. Apparently, I'm just clicking his name. So maybe he's not going to go this week. Kyle Pitts, dude, 4 targets, 3 catches, 20 yards, just not good.
It's Ray McLeod's world, and he's just living in it.
It's
You know?
starting to feel like this might not happen. This is just. I wanted to have hope again this year. I'm ready to be hurt again. Memes, we're fired up, and I'm just not feeling it again. It's not looking good.
And enter new Kyle Pitts excuse. Let's wait and see, like, if Kirk can get healthier.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
the Falcons are just kind of a weird team right now. They're not. We know they're not at their peak potential, and they're just a new team trying to gel. That's what it feels like.
I mean, that defense definitely ain't it because
They're not that good.
outside of like Jesse Bates,
Yeah, Bates and Judon are good, but their linebacking core is very soft, and I'm not. I've always thought Terrell was a little bit overrated too. He literally doesn't pick off the ball. Like I think he had 0 picks last year. Wait, no,
right.
it was somebody. Actually, it was the reason I remember this is there was somebody on either Twitter or whatever. It was like a current player that was talking shit about AJ Terrell because he got all this money, and I don't think he has he has 1 pick in his whole career or something. So
Oh, wow.
it's like some weight. I have to look up the numbers, but he's not much of a ball hawk. We'll put it that way. Jamar Chase has not been great to start the year. The Bengals offense, frankly, has just been kind of out of whack.
Yeah, he gets the Commanders this week. I think
This is a shot.
200 yards incoming for.
Yeah, he does that though, where he has these monster games. So
Yeah,
that wouldn't totally surprise me.
Play. Oh my god!
Right. Let's see. We got anybody else that's Evan McPherson had a nice day. 16 points. Nothing else really there. All right, so I think we got all of them except for mine. So we got the Armadillos beating the Elk 135-88. Really, for my team, Achane has kind of been carrying the load at the running back position. He has had 16 week 1, 22 in week 2, very solid. Nico Collins has been outstanding to start the year.
I was gonna say you were doing a lot of talking about not having a top end wide receiver 1 on your team. Are you sure about that?
Not anymore. Heading into the year, I was in that wide receiver 1 range, but like 9 or 10 or 12, ish area. He has exceeded expectations, and there's kind of this. I guess there was this thought in my head and maybe others' heads on Twitter and football world and whatnot, but that like he was capped out. Like he is still getting better. Like it seems like he's improving every single week. Like he's very good.
Would you rather, going forward right now, if Justin offered you Jamar Chase straight up for Nico Collins, what would you do?
That's a tough one, man. That's not that far off. I will say, I guess if you're looking at my team as it stands, like today, who's performing better and going to help me get through this non-McCaffrey time, I'm feeling like it's Collins. And that's only because he's doing it right now.
Good.
So, I mean,
I love fantasy football, man.
It's pretty wild. Like, because 2 years ago, everybody's about to write off Nico Collins, and now he's a top 10 wide receiver. So it's been a fun ride. We'll say that way. But I'm very happy to have him because, like I said, I really felt like I needed kind of that top end wide receiver production. Now I'm getting it. So it should be a great season for Collins. So looking forward to that. Ayuk is still kind of getting up to speed, it feels like. So I'm not ready to judge him at this point.
Probably a breakout coming this week against the Rams.
I thought kind of this would be a week to see, really where he's at this week. Rashee Rice has been very good in the first 2 weeks. Just kind of the guy there, which is great for me. Just rock solid in my wide receiver spot. I will say a guy that's very much disappointed so far is Dalton Kincaid. There's not a lot going on.
They haven't needed to throw much. It's
They
been
haven't,
tough.
yeah, like you said, like they haven't really done anything. So it's like
They're
I
just beating the
can't make
shit out
them
of
mad.
everybody.
Like they're just not doing anything. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm putting him on the bench this week. I'm going to throw Bowers in there. Obviously
Yeah,
Bowers had a really nice performance on my bench last week for 98 yards, 9
I've
catches.
never been so happy to be so wrong about a projection I had because that dude is.
I love Brock Bowers,
the
dude. That guy's
truth.
awesome.
He's so good.
He's just silky smooth. I mean, he was a hard player to draft in terms of like my team already having a couple decent tight ends, but I've watched Brock Bowers since he was in high school at Napa, and he's just always looked different. So I was willing to take that shot and just see what happens. He's a weapon. So very happy to have him on my team, and he will get the start over Kincaid this week. Pickens, kind of a dud game this week. He got Patrick Surtain as well.
Hey, he had a couple of big plays called back too.
I remember see the one he had that was like a really sick catch and got called back. So I mean
he danced though. He was dancing.
He loves dancing. It's one of his favorite. He loves to celebrate. It's one of his favorite things to do. So he's just a fun ass player to watch. I love George Pickens. But probably he's not better than Jameson Williams right now. I'll tell you that, Sean. Like Jameson Williams is looking really good. I will say this, and I don't even, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I am concerned this guy's going to get hurt. Dude, he is skinny. Like, probably the skinniest receiver in the league right now. Like, I feel like when I look at him, there was
Troy Franklin.
He might be right there. There, dude. Like, if you
Devonta Smith,
he's 6'1", 180. Like, how different is it? Like, it can't be that.
Devonta's 6 foot 170 something.
So it's not that far off. What's crazy is he had that touchdown in week 1 where he got tackled like at the end of the play, right at the end zone, and it looked like his like legs were just gonna fall off. Like he just has such small, like such a slight lower half. It's so scary, but boy, is he explosive. I mean, he's had 121 yards for week 1 on 5 catches, 79 last week on another 5 catches. He's going to be a factor for this passing game and a pleasant. I've always had hope for Williams, but I can't say I expected this. I knew he was going to be more of a surprise player, but not quite to this level. So I'm very happy about that. And then going down the list, not a whole lot more on that side of things. And then the Elk had just a rough week at 88 points. Really, the highlight players here are Devonta Smith and Malik Neighbors, both with quality performance. So Neighbors he's a stud, man. He's gonna be the real deal for his team. So I think there's gonna be some up and down weeks for the Elk, obviously with their current running back situation not being the best. But there are a lot of talent on this team, and I think they're gonna start to get some wins at some point in the season. But
dude, starting McConkey over Rashid Shaheed is questionable.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that again. I think Shaheed's got to be in the lineup right now.
Questionable.
Very questionable.
Thinking.
I don't know. Maybe we have to get Vice President of Legal Services, Justin Senior, to weigh in on this. But anywho, let's look at just kind of the league as a whole real quick before we wrap up. The Battle Axes are on top with a total of 302 points, 2-0 record. The other 2-0 records are the Cheese Fries and the Lauderdale Lionheads. All of them are separated by about 20 or 30 or so points, so nothing too crazy so far. The Muck, the 4 1-1 teams are the Long Gamers, Baton Rouge Bombers, Philadelphia Plague, and the Texas Armadillos. Just some different point totals here so far, so they're a little bit spread out, but it's very early in the season, and that'll kind of work its way out towards the end of the year. But kind of what most people expected, I would say, Sean, as far as the standings go right now. Maybe flip-flop a couple of teams here and there, but I think the bottom 3 here with the Muskrats, Elk, and Lambs is pretty expected for the most part. So has there been any like major surprises to you so far, or any other like general comments on the league as we wrap up this episode?
I don't think so. I mean, it's tough to say after 2 weeks, right? I mean, everything seems right. Week 1, like I said, is always a crapshoot, and you just kind of have to like weather it. But outside of that, things kind of start to fall in place, and I know it's just a matter of like depth starting to take over with these injuries. We'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, I think we'll know a lot more as we get into like week 4 or 5. Just kind of seeing where things sit and then what the injury situations look like, especially for teams like the Muskrats. Like if there's going to be any hope for them, and even going further down the list, like with Pacheco and some of these longer term injuries, we'll see more come out about that soon. So, anywho, we're about an hour and a half, so that's about right for a 2-week review. Apologize again for last week not getting that one in, but we'll try to keep these going weekly. And if there's anything you kind of want to see us talk about or go over on these podcasts, please let us know. Open to any ideas. With that, we'll let you go. See you later.